Have you heard the one where I went to AMDA, American Musical and Dramatic Academy? So it's been a minute, but it is back to school time right now. So I think that this is very fitting to kind of talk about my college years. So first off, I don't really think of it as a college. I mean, I guess it is a college. I don't know, trade school. We'll go with trade school. It was like a 2-year program in New York City. And I had graduated from high school. Remember, it was kind of like this self-progressive school, so I was like valedictorian of all the losers. But I took a year off. So I took a year off and decided to, work, dance. And then, I wanted to do something outside of Texas. And so I decided to audition. I think I auditioned for a couple of places, uh, like where you send in an audition tape. Yeah, that didn't like pan out. But AMDA was actually going to different states and doing live auditions. So I was a dancer. I had knew nothing about acting. I mean, I did a couple of acting things when I was younger. I really love the dramatic stuff, but as you can see, I'm more comical. But I decided to get a coach for singing because that was something I really never did. Actually, I could say it was borderline phobia of like singing in public. So I got myself a coach and, you know, got myself a monologue and I went on this audition and I sang whatever Lola wants, cha cha cha. Sang that song, which is a nice, easy song, 16 bars. Used that a lot. And then I did this one monologue from this monologue book that I thought was like totally obscure and, so dramatic about, I don't even remember. But of course, the girl right after me had the same monologue. So I was really happy that she didn't go before me, but I got in and I was very grateful. And my family was able to help me pay for this and get a loan. Well, my mom knew about like Pell Grants and different kinds of grants, so she was able to help me get loans. And I moved, you know, to Hoboken. They had dorms, and those were scary for me. So the dorms were in New York, which would have been exciting, of course, but the dorms were like, you have a room, and it's New York, you have a room as big as your twin bed. So it's like a twin bed, and then maybe you can like walk a little bit beside the bed and get in the bed. But that's it, that's all you have. And then you share a bathroom. Now, that would be fine if like you're sharing the bathroom with only people that go to the school. But the dorms for AMDA were intermingled with people that lived in New York, that just like happened to be able to afford a place in this dormitory. So I was not really about that. I knew Hoboken, I worked in Hoboken. That's where I got my job. And I've talked about that, like living with, Mark Cabrera. And so it was only a hop, skip, and a jump. So that's what I did. Now, AMDA. Oh my goodness. It was an adventure for me. I was really happy that I did take that year off. It helped me to like really appreciate it. There were, you know, different teachers. So I was definitely a dancer that was learning to sing and learning to act. And then you had the singers that could move, and then you had the triple threats. So with all these teachers, oh my goodness, they were interesting. Some were really great. I never had the really hard one that made everybody cry. I never had that person, but they would put such emphasis on such details that it kind of got me panicked in my head. And oh, I remember just really being afraid of singing. And we had you know day in and day out classes, like every day you're in class. And of course, I got sick and I lost my voice. Losing my voice probably was the best thing for me because I did not miss one day of school. And I don't know if that was just my personality. I really wanted to learn. taking a year off made me really appreciate it. So then I was like, I'm going to every single class. Like when you go to college, you don't get a medal for that. Nobody cares. But I even went when I was sick. And so I lost my voice. And I remember one teacher, he was like, get up and sing. And I'm like, but I don't have a voice. He's like, well, you're here, so you have to sing. And so I don't even remember the song, but I was like, and so it was absolutely the worst because nothing was coming out. But what that did was get me out of my fear because I'm like, it can't get any worse than this. I'm like squeaking and squawking and I couldn't even hold a tune. So I'm like, oh, it really actually, it helped me. A lot of the getting up in front of people and talking helped also formed my confidence in being able to be on, camera or, at least do things like improv comedy. But the teachers, I remember one would have like a nosebleed like all the time. And we were always suspicious. We're like, okay. And I remember one was old as dirt. And he could move. He still could move. And then one was really kooky and crazy. And one story, oh my goodness, my girl Helene. She's like one of my only friends from AMDA that I still talk to. We were in class together. And this teacher really wanted I guess it was like a sensual scene. I don't know, but it was definitely romantic. And when you do a scene, you're doing it in front of your whole class. So you've worked on the scene or you have just gotten that scene for the day. But all I remember is sitting with Helene and watching the scene, and it was the most uncomfortable thing you've ever seen. And it was between a man and a woman that were in our class, their classmates, and they had to I don't know, be kind of on top of each other. Oh my gosh. God bless him. Our little friend, the guy who was in the scene, got a little too excited, if you know what I mean. And that's all Helene and I could see. I guess we had the angle and nobody else could see what we saw. And then I start laughing and she starts laughing and then we can't look each other in the eye because all we see is this tent. And I don't know what that teacher was thinking. It was totally inappropriate. But yeah, that was a really good story. So I definitely learned a lot for being that full, triple threat. Well, I don't think ever became, but it got me learning how to audition and got me the confidence to audition. And I met a lot of great people. The parties were outrageous, and I even had a party in Hoboken where people came. But I think also that's the college years. That's the kind of 20-year-old selves that we are, is exploration and, pushing the limits and running out of money and trying to, survive and living off of hot dogs, which wasn't fun for, the boys always were eating the hot dogs. And it's just like, then you got to do a scene and you got to sing with them and you're just smelling hot dogs. But they were great. They were great friends. And I remember there was a girl, Lydia. She was like, when you go, well, you might not know, but when you go to an audition, you really sit there and then you're looking to your sides and you're like, oh my gosh, these people are like carbon copies of me. So there's a specific type, and Lydia was like, we were the same. We were redheads. We were dancers. We were boisterous. The only difference was like she was like the sexy version of me, and I was like the funny version of her. And so she would always get the roles that I like really wanted, and I'd get the sticky ones. But I was like so honored to work alongside of her, and that was very hard to lose her. She actually died of breast cancer. We had a lot of interesting deaths that happened in our group. One other young man he was so sweet, and he was like gay, And I don't know. I don't know if you could say gay. I don't even know. I'm sorry. I'm really old. I don't know what you say, but he was a male and he liked men. And but I had something, I don't know if I have that anymore, but there was something when I was in my 20s that if a male was homosexual, can you say that? Homosexual, so men liking men, they would, if they had a crush on a girl, it would be me. So this young man had a crush on me. And I was, so like dismissive because I'm like, oh, Jason, you don't have it for the girls. You don't like girls. And he's like, but I like you. And I just thought it was so sweet. And that year, I think it was the year we graduated or the year right after, he passed away from like self asphyxiation. And it was such a controversial way to die. Like his roommate wasn't really sure. Like I think the roommate spoke of like maybe there was another person. He's like, I don't know if his hands were bound. It was very, very hard to stomach and to understand at like that age, losing this amount of people for their age did not match up. And so I remember that being a very difficult time as a group. But we all bonded, and a lot of us, went on to different things that don't surround ourselves with actors and, dancers. But then we had tons of people that went on to like Broadway and movies, and it's so fun to watch them. Like I stalk them on, the Instagrams and the Facebooks and all of that. And I just love to watch their trajectory, and then you see them doing huge things for Hollywood or Broadway, and it's fascinating. And so I'm so glad that I made that connection. And there were times where I felt, like I really had a good run at it. And some of the scenes that we did, like I remember one of my favorite scenes, and it's probably because I love the freaking movie, but we did a breakfast club scene. And so I was, the one, Ali Sheedy, and then my friend who was in class, he was like the jock, and we had that scene where it's like, oh, my parents ignore me. But it was really poignant to do things that, registered for who I was in my 20s. So I appreciate that time. I think about the ones that we lost, and I think about, where everybody is. Because the only person I ever really talked to was Helene, and, she was like the voice of Pocahontas in Sweden. So she was, super famous for me. But I know as kids are right now going and starting these new schools and starting these new colleges, maybe going away and living in the dorms, and how like nervous they are, and like I was, and how much change is at hand. It's exciting and scary and beautiful. So, blessings to all of you who are starting school, or that, you can take that time to remember some really, really magical times in your life. So that's all I got to say about college.